mental health field for over 12 years and is one of the top 3 life coaches in Northern Virginia. He is the founder and owner of I Will Coaching, a global life coaching agency that specializes in relationship and lifestyle coaching. Now, Abdul Wahab will be taking over.
Thank you, Aziza, for the introduction, and thank you, Hisham and SADA, for actually having me present today. I think our topic today, it's embracing our identity as Sudanese Muslim Americans. So I wanted just to take you guys back a few years ago, actually 20 years ago, to be exact, when we first came into this country from Sudan. I was actually born in Sudan, then went to UAE, where we lived for roughly about 12 years or so, and went back to Sudan for about a year, and then we came here. And I remember, going into school for the first time, walking into that cafeteria, as it just happened yesterday, where literally, I think it's had that culture shock walked in to see individuals that like just different groups that fit in within the cafeteria. So we saw like all the Arabs, I think, sat on one side. Then you have all the African Americans ended up sitting on one side. Then you see all the the Caucasians on one side, and then a lot of the Hispanics sat on one side. And I remember walking in and just feeling confused a little bit about where do I fit in, where do I sit. So the questionnaire that came into my mind is like, well, maybe I can sit with the Arabs, like that's where probably I felt a lot more comfortable because I spoke that language, and which I did initially. And then all of a sudden it started to realize, it's like, hold on a second, there's something missing there, to be honest with you. And then, after a week or 2 weeks, started sitting with African Americans, and, at some point wanted to fit in. Then after a little bit, I was like, well, this is just a little bit, because I didn't fit in, to be honest with you. I didn't speak the language. I didn't understand a lot of what they're bringing to the table. I just could not relate to that. So after, a few months of confusion and a lot of, like, I think just being hard on myself about like trying to figure out something that I can fit in. I think I asked myself the question as far as, why do I want to fit in? Like, why would I want to associate myself with a specific culture? How about if I embrace my own culture? I think it actually happened after having a conversation with my mom and about like, hanging out with a lot of the Arabs in the school and trying to change my like my dialogue. I mean, like the Sudanese dialogues to fit in with some of the Egyptians and, some of the Khalidis and things like that, which it did not make any sense to me. And I remember my mom was being very tough on me at that point and said to me, it's like, listen, you cannot just come home and speak in any other any other tongue. You must speak in your native tongue, which is the Sudanese life tongue. So subhanAllah, and years and years and years and years and years, pass. And now I'm sitting back here, looking back at this whole experience for me and understanding that the confusion and understanding that wanting to fit into a specific culture, because it's a lot easier for us. I mean, it's like, like for me, I don't want to generalize for a second, but, came to a realization that we are, and for a lot of, just not me, a lot of my generation, a lot of the kids that were born here, that we come from, from a huge, I think, battle between, our upbringing, like the things that we got from our, families and, like the morals, the things that we were taught and expected, to go out there to school and to out to the communities and present in such a way. And then our own conflict within, just the culture that we want to fit in, the American culture. So I think this is one of those things that you're looking fast forward and seeing a lot of our youth at this point having to ask that question. I want you to think about yourself. If someone come to you and ask you, where you're from, did you hesitate for a little bit trying to explain that you're Sudanese, but you're part Arab and you're coming from Africa, and then at some point you're African American? Have you ever maybe made up some stories about you're from a different culture, a different country, and these are some of the things that I went through, to be honest with you, growing up, and I see a lot of my clients currently, the youth clients, that they're struggling with. So we wanted to take the time today to talk about how to embrace our identity, as Sudanese Muslim Americans. So we got to take a couple of steps back before we dive into, like what does that even mean? Like embracing that specific identity. And I wanted just to break it down into three different components. I think, where do we start? And the second thing is, like, what do we, truly, who we truly are, identifying who we truly are first. And then the second thing, identifying, like, where do we start to like embracing and doing all these different things. And the third one is, how do we live a life with, with pride and being excited about who we truly are. So I'm going to take it back into, I think the first step into the whole journey is to identifying and knowing yourself, like truly identifying and understanding who you truly are. I mean, we are a complex of so many mixture of so many different things. Like when you start to ask yourself, are you creative? Are you a male? Are you a female? Are you funny? Are you a sister? Are you a daughter? Are you a friend? Are you a musician? Are you, what are some things that you're good at? And one of the easiest exercises that I tell a lot of people to do is to literally just pick a pen and paper and sit down and ask yourself, who am I? Just ask yourself that simple question. You start by maybe identifying and writing down 10 to 15 different things that identify you as an individual. And then it could be, 5 or 10 different positive words to describe you. I mean, people will write things about I'm funny, I'm friendly, I'm athletic, I'm amazing, I speak 2 languages, and whatever that is. I mean, the key to it is just for you to start the dialogue with yourself to identify who you truly are. So you start to write some of these different things. The second step is to start to maybe identify people within your life that you think know you best. It could be your parents, your siblings, your friends and families, and individuals that you spend some time with, and ask them to describe you in such positive words. And you can maybe just send them a quick text and say, guys, listen, can you describe me in 5 to 10 positive words, and see what you get out of it. So let's say you have 5 friends, each one of them described you in 5 positive words. And the reason why I say positive versus negative, because I think as individuals, a lot of times we're so hard on ourselves and we beat ourselves up, hard if we make mistakes, or we identify, or, we don't follow the rules, or we don't do what our parents ask us or expected us, to do. And so taking a step back to think about and focus on the positive aspect of who we truly are, that will help us to establish, and identify who we truly are, establishing our identity as, as who we are. Then we can dig deeper, once we, ask ourselves that question, we ask the people that, that know us best about who to describe us. I think the third step is to dig deeper into paying attention to some of the things that, random people or other people are identifying all of us. Like, let's say you're walking down the street right now in Ramadan, you see a homeless person and you ended up giving them, a couple bucks, right away, the guy thank you and tell you, what, you're very generous. And then you look back at your list and you identify that you did not write generous in there. So you take that and you write it down. So just having that thought process as far as being intentional and spending the time to identifying who you truly are is a key. Because this is one of those things that we tend to see that we don't spend a lot of time. I mean, it's a lot easier for us to give advice. It's a lot easier for us to talk to other people about who they are and what they need to do and what they need to change. But we never actually take the time to spend on ourselves and trying to figure out who we truly are, right? So that's the first one. The second thing is to shift our self-talk. I think, recognizing that we have some, some negative things in our life, and we do have some positive, traits in our life. Taking the negative aspect of things and accept it, and then embracing our positive things. I mean, we are a mixture. I mean, we are a human being, and we do make mistakes constantly. So I think it's how do we, love yourself? And this is a topic that we're going to be talking about next week, inshallah, in a couple of weeks, about, positive talk and loving yourself. So I want just to, to take a step back and identifying, like yourself with the positive thing that you bring into yourself. Treat yourself the same way you want to be treated. Treat yourself the way you will treat your best friend. Literally, I want us to think about that from your mindset. Be gentle with yourself. If you make a mistake, accept the mistake, own into that mistake, and move on. Like, you don't have to harm yourself and continue to beat yourself up for something that you did, and you do things that, that you didn't do, and mistakes and constant, meaning it's, sometimes, I see clients that we talk to that they're trying and they're making progress, and then they make a couple mistakes and then they stop. They feel like, what, I'm not worthy. I can't be consistent. I can't be moving forward. I'm disappointing myself. I'm disappointing my family and things like that. But that's not the case. You want to make sure that you shift your mindset and you start to ask yourself the question as far as, what do I deserve? Do I deserve to be treated with respect? Yes. So you need to start to treat yourself with respect. Do I deserve to be loved? Yes. So you need to start to love yourself. Do I deserve to be, embraced? Yes. You need to start to embracing yourself. So that's the key. Number one, we talked about how do we establish our identity and asking ourselves who we truly are. The second thing is, how do we shift our self-talk and be gentle with ourselves and talk properly and gently to ourselves. The third one is to start to take action, and that's in the road to discovering your identity. You need to start to take some action, and with taking, action, I want you guys to think about, if you identify yourself to be creative, for example, take the time to create. If you identify yourself as someone who's an artist, take the time to be an artist. If you decide to create art, if you describe yourself as someone who's spiritually connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, take the time to start to read the Quran and take some steps. If you put something in there that you are a person of service, if you value service, you start to take some volunteering opportunity. So start to find activities that will bring you joy and make you feel alive at heart, and then do them. So that's the key. Like, once we identify who we truly are, the second thing is to identify, being gentle with ourselves and being, and deserving to the things that we want to do. The third one is it's all about taking action towards that. One of the things that I want to tell our youth, that you're not alone, and this is a key component. A lot of kids that I talk to, a lot of youth that I talk to, in their mind is like, this is a journey that I have to go through it by myself to figure out on my own. No, you don't. This is thing that where parents can come in and become very, very handy. Positive friends can become very handy. Proper communities that's what's that SADA is trying to create, build this positive community for you guys to have that outlook. Your mentors, your guiding counselors, your older brothers and sisters, your coaches, whoever that is that you feel comfortable and you have that relationship with, seek guidance. It's you don't have to figure it out all on your own. And to be honest with you, having that relationship with our parents, to talk to them and to process things with them and to seek their advice in some of the things that they do is a critical piece. But I also want to emphasize on the parents aspect of thing is, like, you need to start to take the time to get to know your kids. Take the time. I mean, like, life, as far as when you think about relationship and identity and things like this, is not something that's like, it's going to create, like, happen overnight. It's a process, and it starts with you. All these amazing morals and all these amazing things that you're trying to engrave in your children, you have to lead by example. If you're talking to your kids about being gentle with each other, you have to be gentle with them. If you're telling your kids about not smoking and not drinking and not doing all these different things, don't smoke and don't drink. If you ask your kids to read more Quran, spend some time in the masjid and embracing that, that's what you need to start to do, to start to lead by example, right? So that's where the responsibility and the mas'uliyah goes in. Our parents, you guys have that. One of the biggest issues that I see with a lot of the kids that we work with is that they don't have that relationship with their parents. They say to me that, what, we just cannot go in and talk to our parents. We cannot go in and have a dialogue because our parents might not accept us for who we are. So I think this is a key component where, as young youth, this is maybe something that you should talk to your parents about. Let them know how you feel and let them know how do you want that relationship. And for our parents to listen to what our kids are wanting to tell us and to start to take some action, the same exact things. I mean, again, the key component to this whole thing is to lead by example, understanding that, life is not just about, working and providing and buying that big house and buying all these different, cars and providing the money and providing the opportunities and sending your kids to private school. I mean, this is great to put them in that advantage, but what our kids truly want is that hug. I think our parents, $1 million question: when is the last time you went in and you hugged your kid and you gave them that love and you told them that you're proud of them? When is the last time you took your kid on a date and sat down with them, just trying to understand their needs and wants and what they are into? So this is $1 million question, I think, for our parents to emphasize and go in, because if you want your kids to trust you, to come to you, to talk to you about, identities and crises and how to embrace it and how to learn about culture and how to do all these different things, you need to start to build that trust in that relationship. And if you do have that relationship, think push that, take the time on a weekly basis to spend with the kids and talk to them, to the youth, and process things and things like that. Because I promise you, there's a lot of information and there's a lot of needs and wants our youth wanting. If you are not able to provide that, they are going to go out and seek it somewhere else. So just keeping that in mind and being tactical about like what you do as far as your relationship with your kids. So number 4, it's letting go of what others think of you, and this is for our youth, and then direct your attention inward. And this is another thing. I think confidence and self-esteem, and this is one of those biggest issues that I tend to see with our youth currently. I mean, a lot of our youth, as I mentioned, when we start to go in that journey of discovering and embracing who we truly are, we go through this hesitation as far as being influenced by other people. And this is a battle, a constant battle, to be honest with you, that I see with our youth and our parents, where, we pick our friends. We want to have certain friends that we see certain values in those friends. And then sometimes our parents don't agree or disagree with those friends because some of that, they feel like, they might be a negative influence on you, or, they might direct you towards certain things. What I want to say in this is proximity is power. Who you associate with, who do you spend the most time with, that will dictate your personalities and you're going through and embracing your own identity and figuring out who you are. So if you're hanging out with a bunch of guys that's, let's say, I just want to be honest, losers, and they don't have anything in life, not looking anything in life, and it's all about drugs, I'm all about alcohol, it's all about all these different things, even if you have that background, you start to find yourself being, dragged into that. So surround yourself with individuals that will help you to push you to move forward. And listen to your parents. Have that dialogue. If your parents come to you and say to you, listen, I don't want you to hang out with this guy. I think the $1 million question is, sit down with your parents and ask your parents, well, what are your thoughts? Not in a defensive way, or not in a reactive way, just more in a concept of trying to understand where your parents are coming from. Once you identify that, you understand exactly where the parents are coming from. If you feel or you hear that your parents are not giving your friend that right, they don't know your friends the way that you do. I mean, trying to maybe to arrange that, to have your friends come in, meet your parents, let your parents ask those specific questions and trying to understand and get to know them. Because a lot of times it's like, it's our perspective. Our parents will have a perspective of some of the friends, or sometimes they know them, and so they want to push you to hang out with certain individuals. So I think having that transparency and having that communication with your parents, and and slowly start to, I'm not saying like let go of how they think of you, but I want you to think about it. It's like, stop comparing yourself to other people. And one of the things for our parents, stop comparing your children, because this is one of those things that, if you think about it from a psychological standpoint, and and we can go in for hours and hours and hours. So be very tactical. Like, don't ever compare your kids, because when you think about identity and you think about embracing our identity, we need to understand that each individual and each child is unique in their own way. As adults, we all unique in our own way. If you think in your hands, they all come, you have 5 different fingers and they all look different. Each one of them, it's its own culture. You see what I'm saying? So when you think about it from that sense, so when you think about your kids, and your youth, and the relationship with them, think about it from that sense. You want to embrace them in that sense. You want to treat each child differently. Each child, each youth have their own strength and they have their own weaknesses. So once you identify that, once you allow them to identify that, and then at some point you're trying to embrace that in them, so you want to engrave those things in them. So if your child comes to you and say to you, listen, I am an artist, I like to play music and things like that, it's not you who's telling them, no, this is not what it is. I don't want you to be an artist. I want you to be a doctor, or I want you to be a lawyer. I want you to go a certain way. Completely get that. I mean, this is something that we all go through. I am Sudanese and I do have parents, and they wanted me to go a certain direction and wanted me to go a certain route. But that doesn't mean that we're not able to do both. At an early age, I told my parents that I wanted to play sports. I played football, played soccer, and I wrestled. These are the things that I wanted to do. My parents wanted me to focus specifically in school and in what I do, homework and things. So I came to them and said, listen, how about if I do both? I can make a commitment when school is over, I go to practice, I come home, structure my day, I get my homework, I get my good grades. And if my grades drop, you know what? You're right. I'm just gonna just drop out of sports. For me, sport was an avenue for me to express myself and to identify who I am. And that's something that I found my parents helped embrace in me. So this is something for the youth. If you find out and you discover the things that you are good at, the things that you enjoy doing, I think going in and having that conversation with your parents. And for our parents, it's all about listening to what these kids are telling you and trying to find a way, trying to problem solve with them where they're able to balance their time in a such a way where they're able to manage both. So the key to this whole thing, it's not about, and there's no limitation, to be honest with you. And kids are resilient, our youth are resilient. And this is something that I really want to say. Sudanese youth in this area are resilient. I get the chance to sit down with a lot of them and talk to them and process things with them and pick their brain and understand where they come from. I mean, mashallah, 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 these guys are awesome, just a different generation. And I think the revolution did a lot of just, help, just nurture their minds and get them that identity boost that they were looking for. So I think this is a perfect time, and for us as parents and for us as youth to come together to communicate. Now with this whole corona situation, I mean, we are home. We spend a lot more time at home. Some of us do go to work and do all these different things and leave the house, but for the most part, I mean, they are home. They're not in school for 8 hours and things like that. So this is the time to start building that relationship. This is the time for you to spend time with each child. This is the time that you guys sit down together and work on needs and wants and things that they're good at. What are the things that that what make them different, and embrace that. And that's the extra boost, that confidence boost that the kids need. They hear it from their parents that, wow, that you are creative. Wow, you are amazing. Wow, you are just intelligent. You are smart. You are athletic. You are, very resilient when you start to play the piano or art or drawing things or into engineering and into things that are just not that the norm for us. That will help give them that extra boost and that extra confidence that they need. The key component to this whole, part of it about letting go of what others think of us is to build our confidence and our self-esteem. And once we have to get to that level where we start to build that momentum into identifying and getting that positive, reward and positive acknowledgement for the things that we're doing, this is the time we start to see and feel different. And that's when we start to push forward to identifying and embracing who we truly are. And then the fifth thing in this area is to do the things that scare you. A lot of times that we are, we are, I don't want to say controlled, but we tend to not start things. I mean, I have clients currently that are young youth, Sudanese youth that want to start businesses, that wanted to start to do things, wanted to take a different course, wanted to, go into politics, wanted to go to different things, but they're afraid, of the consequences or not achieving or not, not doing things. And one of the biggest things is embracing that Sudanese culture. I mean, I have, some great ideas for some of the youth that I work with. And it's all about, I want to do this, I want to build this, I want to do this, I want to create this initiative. But it's that fear of failure. It's that fear of not wanting to take that jump. Because what if I fail? What if, things that didn't go the way that I want? So my advice to you, to be honest with you, start. Just start, do the things that scare you when it comes to things like this. Start to search, as a human being, we are programmed to evolve, to do better. So who we are today is not who we are, let's say, a week from now, a month from now, 10 years from now, and things like that. We are, and having change is scary, so you need to embrace it. Just think about today, when this whole corona situation started a couple months ago. A lot of us were very afraid of this whole, what is this school thing is going to look like? How are we able to adapt and do this online schooling? How are we not able to how are we able to survive just being home for 24, 48 million hours a day? And we complained a lot the first, few days, first few weeks, first few, first month. But now it becomes a norm, right? Now we're embracing this. Now we have some type of structure. Now we have, we wake up at a certain time, we spend time with family. Now we do iftar together. Now we pray together. Now we, do tarawih together. Now we read the Quran together. And I want to speak about, about myself. I mean, I do have a 7-year-old and I do have a 4-year-old that every morning, alhamdulillah, they wake up with me for sahur. They wake up when they do fajr, they attempt to fast, both of them. They read Quran together and then they go out to do their things. Towards the end of the day, it's a must. We all sit on that table We all prepare the meal together. And that's that component as far as embracing, like the change, because we evolve, right? And in a sense of like, this is something that we never did before. We didn't even think that we can do this. Now we have the opportunity. Now we have the time to jump in and do that. So just to summarize this part, some different ways to follow to start to embracing yourself and identifying. I think the number one we talked about is identifying and establishing your identity, identifying who you truly are. And we talked about, a quick exercise that I would like each and every one of you guys to do is to, just pen and paper, write down 10 things positive things about you. Ask the people around you that you think know you best to describe you in 5 to 10 different positive words. And then the third aspect of it, paying attention to these compliments and paying attention to what everyone else is saying about you, and write those things down. Once you do that, the second thing is all about shifting your self-talk, asking yourself that telling yourself that you deserve this. If you are, I deserve to be creative. I deserve to do these different things. I deserve to be the best that I can. I deserve to be the best Sudanese person. I deserve to be the best Muslim. I deserve to pray 5 times a day. I deserve to read the Quran to generate all the hasanat that I want. The third one is, taking actions. And this is one of the critical parts. It's like, we talked about earlier that, if you identified yourself as a creative person, start to create. If you identified yourself as someone who's into art, start to create art. If you identify yourself as an entrepreneur, talk to your parents about starting businesses and things like that. The key to this whole thing is to embracing and then learning to improve that relationship. And the key to this whole thing is to to understand that you're not alone. You're not in this whole thing alone. You have a support system out there, that people that are out there willing to help. If you feel like that relationship that with your parents, or the relationship with people in your community, the relationship with your friends is not to par with the way that you want it to do, seek help, seek external help. Talk to your parents about getting a coach, talk to your parents about getting a therapist, talk to your parents about identifying different ways to help you manage and figure out what that is, so you can continue to move forward. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. All of us need help, to be honest with you. And then the point that I talked about is that proximity, how the people we surround ourselves with dictate the level of success that we are in. So I think choosing your friends, carefully, and being able to, tap on your parents' resources and elderly resources as far as their thought processes on how these things are, right? And then assemble for our parents to go in and spend the time, to be honest with you, to get to know your child. There's 2 types of parents. There's parents that will continue to do things the way they think that's the right way of doing it, without hearing, or without listening, without, just, this is my way. We're programmed to do a certain thing because this is what we want to get out of. And who actually miss, and they're not putting in regard in any of our, our children mindsets and what they want and needs and things like that. And we have their, individuals that will spend the time and cultivate and talk and process and understand what their kids want to do. Within those 2 individuals, some will just choose not to do anything, will continue to push forward, and some that will decide to change. And I think, to be honest with you, that's that key, adapting. Change is hard and change is difficult, especially if we are programmed to do certain things over and over and over and over again. For us to acknowledge that we missed something, have the conversation with our kids and our youth, and adjust to, according to what's going on. That will help give our youth the confidence and the self-esteem that they need to embrace who they are. And then they will start to jump and start to take chances and do the things that scare them. All right, we can take some questions before we jump into the next phase. Or if you guys would like for me to keep going, I'd love to just keep going. Aziza, what are your thoughts?
So far, we don't have any questions, Abdulwahab. You can continue, please.
Awesome, perfect.
Thank you.
So no problem. So the second part that I wanted to understand about about a culture and to cultivate it, I think taking the time to understand and embracing your own culture. I think writing down things about what make you unique, not from a sense, because right now we took that phase of identified who we truly are, right? We identified that self. Now that we all are Sudanese, we all are Muslims, and we all are Americans at this point. Again, that just, if these are the 3 different entities that you want to associate yourself with, born, if you are Sudanese parents, you are Sudanese. If you are Muslim, you are Muslim, and if you are born here or you live here, at some point you become an American. So taking those three different things and embracing the positive things about them. Like for example, one of the things that for me in specific, like I never used to eat Sudanese food at all. Like didn't do any Sudanese food or anything like that, all the way until January of this year, where even when my parents used to make Sudanese food, I just did not eat it for whatever reason that is. It's in my mind. So this January, I actually hopped on a plane and I went to Sudan for the first time in 19 years. 19 years. That's my last time that I went to Sudan. So I went there with one thing in mind, into identifying and embracing that culture. And I spent the most amazing 7 days in my life where I got to get to learn a lot more about who we are. I learned about the Nile. I learned about the food. I learned about the art. I learned about the history. I learned about the clothing. I learned about just the thought processes. I learned about just how resilience. I mean, and I actually spent a lot of time to understand the revolution from people that were there, Martian. I mean, I was just trying to understand the mindsets behind it. And I loved it. I loved it. It was one of those things that's like, I think it's for me, it was a huge like shift in the mindset. I came back and I tell you, for like probably like a month or so, from January all the way to March, I spend a lot of time reading and studying and embracing and learning about culture. I'll literally go in and reach out to our elderly, our grandparents, and our parents that lived around this area, uncles and aunts and family friends. And I'll literally sit down and ask the question for them to tell me their interpretation of our culture. And subhanAllah, it was one of those things that's like, it was just amazing. Then fast forward to March 15th, actually decided, my parent, it was our kids, we decided to go on vacation, and we decided to go to Sudan for vacation for the first, as a family, for the first time in years. And we all left to Sudan March 15th, and we stayed there for a month, actually, in Sudan during this whole epidemic. So the first few, like month of this epidemic, we were actually in Sudan. And we just got back to this country last Wednesday, actually. I'm actually quarantining myself for the next 14 days just to make sure that we're okay. But it's one of those things that, while we were there, like it was not work related. It was literally like, I love that culture so much that I want to spend as much time, to embrace. So, and that's the thing, once you start to, like I said, the revolution did something to all of us, just from a mental standpoint, that opened our eyes into something that I don't think that I think we took for granted. So subhanAllah, and this is something that I wanted my kids to go through. So when we went there, identifying the clothes, I mean, actually when we came back, I mean, it's been here for like, except for 9 days, and every night for iftar, my wife is making Sudanese food, and we just love the process of it. So my advice for the youth is to do your reading and do your understanding, and do your digging into identifying your culture, identifying who you truly are. We have some amazing, revolutions, and we have amazing culture. We have an amazing civilization that I think all of us should take the time and the minute to embrace and learn about, right? Spend the time with your parents and talk to your parents about their experiences and their, when they were kids, and what are some of the things that they did, and when they were your age, what are some things they did in Sudan, and what did they hear from their grandparents and great grandparents. If you have your grandparents living, reach out to them and pick their brain and just learn a little bit more about it. So that's one aspect of it. The second thing is, at this point, you embrace who you are, you embrace culturally what that is. And then at some point, push it into understanding, Islamic roots and in Islamic things. What is it to be a Muslim American? And this is something I think, I'm not going to touch too much based on, because I mean, this is not my expertise, but I know, like maybe Chef Ahmed Majid or some other sheikhs that's the expertise that it can come in and put so much weight on it. But for me, for example, I want to speak about myself. I mean, it's always been in my mind that I wanted to become a better Muslim. So, and I understood that, by surrounding myself with parents and going to the masjid and asking the proper questionnaire and questioning that, and surrounding myself with friends that embrace the same ideas of wanting to become better Muslims. And being a better Muslim, that doesn't mean like we go from 0 to 200, like within a day or two. It's literally about the baby steps. Like, I think one of the biggest things for me that I started doing is to make sure that I pray my 5 times a day on time. Literally, that was that. Like, I want to start with my prayers, like, so one thing that I did, brought my pen and paper, and I literally during my calendar, my planner on a daily basis, I'll write Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha. Literally, that's how that's simple. And then I break that time, so it's, and now there's no excuses. We are home and we are in Ramadan. So it's a great time for us to start to utilize the time, because there's no excuses that are you don't have time or you are in school, and you start to build that momentum. Write that in your planner. If you are like one of those individuals stay up all night and go to sleep all day and things like that, stay up all the way to Fajr, pray Fajr Hadr, do your sahur, and then go to bed. Wake up by 1 o'clock, do your dhuhr, you pray, go back to sleep if you want to, come back all the way to Asr, wake up, do your Asr, get up and start, Maghrib. You got to do it, because, it's everybody together, all family sitting down home, eating together. And then you do Isha, we do your Tarawih if you want to, and then go to bed. So that's that concept of like, making prayers usual priorities. So once I mastered that and I started to do things and I found myself becoming a little bit more consistent, I wanted to push it a little bit, right? So I decided to every single day after every prayer, I would do 5 push-ups to work on my health, and I would do like 1 page of Quran. Some people will start with like 1 sentence. Some people said, well, I don't even know how to read Quran or, Arabic. No problem. This is a perfect time for you. If this is something that you truly, genuinely want to do, spend the time. If you really want to master your Arabic, spend the time now. If you really want to master your recitation, spend the time now. There's a lot of online, courses that people that are able to get in and help, help push you to become a better reciter or understand a little bit more, reflect back more on the Quran and all these different things. Adams does an amazing job. We have a lot of youth programs. I mean, like I said, we have Muhammad Majid in this area, who's just, like, mashallah, and a scholar. I mean, and they have a lot of different programs that they're putting together to help embrace in that. So, ask your parents, literally, and make that your parents, like literally sit down with your parents and say to them, hey, every time you go in to read some Quran, can you wake me up? Can we do suhoor together? Can we read the juz'ah together? Can I just sit there and listen? If you're working on a recitation, it doesn't mean like you have to sit down, pick up the Quran and read. If you can't read at this point, listen. You can just download an app and you can just continue to listen to that. Talk to your parents. And that's the thing for our parents, like it's our responsibility to make our kids want to embrace that. Leading by example is the way to go. Yelling, screaming, hollering, beating them up and screaming at them and force them to pray and force them to do all these different things. It doesn't work. I just want to be 100% honest with you. It's not going to work. It's all about that logic, and it's all about sitting down to explain to them the needs and wants, the benefits of reading the Quran, of praying, of fasting, of giving, of zakah, and Islam, it's beyond all of this. Islam is not just those, very hard, like, okay, I mean, sure, it's that, but it's all about ta'amul. It's all about how we treat each other, how we treat ourselves, how we treat our neighbors. Spend some time to read about the Prophet's stories. These are very exciting stories. Listen to podcasts that can help you with that. And this is the 1% increase improvement on a daily basis. I promise you, the minute you have that proper intention that you want to embrace your Muslim culture and you want to dive into it to learn about, because I think the biggest thing is like a lot of us, like don't spend the time to understand what are we missing? What is that to be Muslim? What is that identity to be Muslim? And once we embrace that, we actually understand what that is. We're gonna start to find that, wow, this is amazing, that I am Muslim, right? And let me push that. And you don't have to go out there and and push things and and push envelopes and talk to people. No, it's all about the baby steps. It's all about, just like I said, taking proper methods, step-by-step process. And I promise you, the more you become more structured when it comes to your spirituality and your deen and things like that, become more structured as far as who you are, embracing yourself and the things that you want to do, becoming more structured about your day, how many, your prayers, your sleep, your giving, your Ramadan, your exercise, your reading your books, you're doing your schoolwork and all these different things. You start to become more in control of the things that you want to do, right? And that will help you with your confidence. Because one of the questions that I ask a lot of our youth constantly is, like, how are you spending your time? How are you spending your day? And literally, I start to find people spending hours and hours and hours and hours and hours on social media or just playing video games and things like that. I mean, it's part of who we are, but that doesn't mean that we make it take everything else, right? You want to embrace who you are. You want to embrace your culture. You want to embrace your Muslim American. You want to embrace your Sudanese American. You got to spend the time to get to know that culture. To embrace the culture, you need to know what that is all about. Take that in inhale it in, Ask the proper question, use your support system, use your families, if you have families here. If you don't have families here, reach out to your communities, because your communities become your families at this point, and continue to build that momentum so you can continue to move forward. Questions?
No, no.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So a few things that I wanted just to, just to highlight, like I know we have about almost an hour, but I wanted to just highlight a few things, that will help you, to be honest with you, when you start to, start to work on embracing who you truly are and things like that. I think one of the biggest things I wanted to talk about, is to listen to your inner voice. And this is one of those things for our youth. A lot of times when I spend some time with the youth and talk to them, a lot of them, to be honest with you, they're not happy with some of the choices that they're making. And they understand that. But then at some point, when they hear it too much from their parents, and they hear it too much from the society, and they hear it so much from so many different people that you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, in their mind, they pick that in and say, you know what? Okay, that means I am wrong. I'm just going to continue to do what that is, because at some point there's no hope. No, I respectfully disagree with you. There is hope. By you listening to your inner voice, when you start to pay attention to, that what you truly, honestly, the things that you truly want to do versus the thing that's bothering you, it will help you strengthen your voice and overcome anyone else's voice that you're hearing, and that's including our parents. If our parents keep nagging, and I want to use that word, nagging, about, like you're not worth it, you're not like this, your brother is doing much better, or your sister is graduating, you didn't do things, and you're not, and you're worthless, and you this and you that. The issue that will, happen in our mind is like we'll start to take that. But if you deep inside in your heart feel like you really want to change, because you want to do better, you want to move forward in life, you want to achieve the things that you truly want to achieve, ask yourself just different questions, like ask you questions about, and see how you respond to it, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and energetically. I mean, these are the things that we tend to just forget about. Like, for example, every time you say your dad or your mom, or every time you want to change, for example, you feel like, you know what, today I'm going to start, I really want to start praying today. Then all of a sudden you take a step back, and you see that, I want you to pay attention to, just that excitement, that the things that you want to do. But then all of a sudden you start to hear these negative thoughts. Well, what does that even mean? Like, you're going to start today and you're going to stop tomorrow. You're not going to be consistent. So why should you start? Those are the things that I want you to start to pay attention to. And you make a decision, jump for it. You make a decision that you want to be better, take the time right away. You don't have to wait till Monday to start. You don't have to wait till like an hour from now to start. You want to pray, hop on and go pray. You want to learn about your culture, hop on and learn about your culture. You want to start to learn how to play a guitar, jump in and learn how to start playing a guitar. You want to join, let's say, a mosque group, join a mosque group. Talk to your parents about it, then jump in. So these are the things, listen to your inner voice and see and ask yourself different questions. In order for us to get different results, we have to ask ourselves different questions. You can't just ask yourself the same thing or do the same thing over and over and over and over again and expect to get different results. It will never happen. It will never happen. I have, youth that I talk to that literally would tell me, I'll be sitting home, and I just hope I close my eyes and wake up and I have $1 million outside. That the reality is that will never happen, right? Literally will never happen. You have to work for it. So to become a better Sudanese, you have to work towards that. To become a better you have to work towards that. To become a better Muslim, you have to embrace that and work towards that. And this is what it is. It takes time. Patience is key, and it takes efforts. So getting started and start to take some steps towards that. I tell people, sometimes you don't even know what steps are you taking. And that's what I'm saying. Like, embracing your surrounding. Reach out to me. I literally don't have a problem with that. Reach out to me and ask me that question. I'll spend some, 10, 15, 20 minutes, just pick your brain about like some things that you like to do and things that you want to move forward to, and at least direct you towards taking some steps. Attend more of these, seminars and webinars and, and workshops and things that will help you develop and personal growth and continue to move forward in life. Literally, that the thing is, it's on you. You need to make that commitment to yourself that you want to change. Listen to your inner voice, what it's telling you, why you should change, why you should do better, why you should become a better person. Once you start to hear that, ask yourself different questions and start to take proper steps towards that. Like I said, don't worry about what steps should I take? How am I going to get there? And all these different questionnaires. That's very valid. Start by asking yourself why you want to change. I want to change because I want to get to know my culture more. I want to change because I want to become a better Muslim. I want to change because I want to be a better me. Good enough reasons. Now start and do it for you. That's another interesting point. Do it for you, because you're changing for you. You want to become a better you. Don't do it for other people, because if you start to do it for other people, that's when you start to get disappointed. And I want to be 100% with you. Do it for you. Talk to other people, pick their brains. And when I mean other people, I don't mean everyone. I mean people that you trust, that believe. I mean, parents are one of those individuals that I think if you have the good relationship and you have that good avenue and you have that dialogue and you have that communication with them, things can go amazing because you get that extra boost. Because a lot of time we're craving our parents' love and attention and support. So once they start to give us that, this is great. And the same thing goes into the parents. Your kids, your youth are craving your love, your attention, and your support. So give it to them. I had a parent, a Sudanese parent, which is sadly I was working with a few months ago, and he said something to me that actually resonated with me. We were sitting down, and his kid was just acting out and just not being himself, and just getting in trouble and hanging out with the wrong crowd and drinking and smoking and stealing and all these different things. And we're sitting down talking at his house, and said, Abdul Wahab, like, I know exactly what this kid wants. No, I'm sorry. He's like, Abdul Wahab, I know exactly what this kid needs. So I literally looked at him and I said, what does he need? He literally looked at me and said, he needs a hug. So came a little bit confused, and I said, well, why don't you just give it to him? And his answer was, oh, I would never do it. I don't hug my kids. And I literally took a step back and I told him, I was like, whatever your kid is doing, it's on you, because you understand exactly what your kid needs and you decided not to do it. And I know this is maybe an extreme, like an extreme case, but I really want our parents to ask ourselves that question. When is the last time you went in and you hugged your kid and told them that you love them? And I'm not talking about the young ones. I'm talking about the old ones, the teens, like that, the 13, the 14, the 15, the 20, the 21, the 30. Literally hug them and tell them that you love them. If you haven't, I think this is the time for you to do that and start the dialogue. So this is something they just wanted just to put back at you. And then the second thing that I wanted to talk about making changes. I mean, and I talked about it briefly that, like we're expecting things to be different, but if we don't work towards it, I mean, nothing is going to change. I'm sorry to tell you this, but nothing is going to change unless you change them. So making changes, you allow your inner self to show through, that's the must. And it's not about and that's another thing, people want to change and they want to change quickly. They want to go from 0 to 100. No, it's about going from 0 to 1 and 1 to 2 and 2 to 3 and 3 to 4 and 4 to 5 and to 10 and then to 20 to 30 to 40 to 100. Why do I say this? Because it's a lot easier for us to do this. Is if one of the commitment that you make to yourself is, tomorrow I'm going to wake up 15 minutes early, and you do it, and you do that consistently for a couple of days, it's great. Pat yourself on the back, get excited, keep moving forward. And then guess what? You can add another thing. I want to wake up 15 minutes early and I want to pray. Great. Awesome. Well, I want to wake up 15 minutes early. I want to write my goals down. Amazing. Do that. That's what I mean about it. Make it a habit, and it's achievable. Start with small, achievable, consistent goals. Get them done. And then that's how you build that confidence, and that's how you build that momentum so you can continue to move forward. A lot of people, a lot of time, I don't want to say a lot of people, a lot of time we set goals for ourselves that is very hard to achieve, or it was just impossible to achieve. And then we try it and then we don't get there. And then all of a sudden we start to become harder on ourselves. We start to create that momentum of like just negative experiences. It's going to negatively impact our confidence and self-esteem. And it's going to impact the way we make decisions. I'm not saying don't make mistakes. Mistakes is part of who we are and it's part of growth. Make mistakes, learn from the mistakes, keep moving forward. And for our parents, please allow our kids to make the mistakes. I know you want to protect them. I know you want to do whatever it is to help them not make the mistakes. But you know what? That's how we learn. We learn about making the mistakes. So if the kid does something wrong, it's not the end of the world, right? You will continue to love them. You continue to support them. You continue to have them, be upset, be mad, be angry, and then have the dialogue. Not in a very mad and angry, but allow your kids to make mistakes and be there with them every step of the way. Let them make the mistake. Let them learn from the mistakes, and then come back and process these different things. So for them to learn to trust, number one, and to learn to continue to, because life, guess what? I mean, you as parents, we all here for a certain time. I mean, we're all gonna die at some point. We're all gonna go away for some point. Our kids gonna grow up. They're gonna get married. They're gonna start families. They're gonna keep moving forward and things like that. So being there with them every step of the way and controlling the decisions that they're making, it's not gonna help them in the long run, right? Allow them, like I said, if they make a mistake, talk about it, process it, understand the needs, the wants. And even if they go back and do the same thing over and over again, and do it again, and do it again, and do it again, it's okay. If they're trying, that's efforts. You push them, you support them. And if they do something wrong, you correct them. You have that relationship with them to have that dialogue. What do you want to do? You want to create that trust between you and your teens. So, and from the teens, between you and your parents, where they are okay to come to you and talk to you about their issues and problems and things like that. And you, that supportive parents, where you're looking back at it and you help them, give them what they're looking for, that craving, that love, that attention, that connection, that guidance that they're looking for. They'll become a lot more receptive. And with that, that's how they become a lot more attached to your culture. And that's how you build that legacy, where they take what they learn from you and they pass that to their kids and kids and kids and kids. And that's how you create that. But the responsibility from our parents to stop the snowball. Stop. I mean, evaluate your relationship with your kids and help embrace your own culture and then give that to them. And the responsibility for our kids to listen, to take that, to ask the question, to build that relationship, to make the efforts. Even if the parents don't see what you see, to continue to try, continue to ask, continue to pick their brain. But like I said, it takes a village to build a child, and that's what it is. So you have avenues. If you go to the masjid, your supportive group in there, talk to your imam, talk to your kids in there, your friends, your parents and your uncles, your aunts, whoever that is. One of the things that I want to embrace about our culture as Sudanese, that we're very cultural driven. We have a very like bond that like just family bond. I mean, it's all about the families. Like if you look into your parents, Duyuf and constant and communities, and we involve and we do all this thing. And this is something that I've never seen it anywhere else. And this is something to embrace and make you very proud about who you are as a culture. So these are the things that we should take advantage of. Pick up families' brains and parents and supportive systems, coaches, mentors. If you have a problem, if you identify that you have an issue that no one can help, seek external help. Seek a therapist, seek a counselor. It's okay. I mean, at the end of the day, we want our kids to be better. We want our youth to be better. It's not about shutting them down. If the kids come to you and say, like, I'm depressed, mental health exists. Let's not say, well, this is just not, it's not what it is. You're just angry, you're just anxious. Just no, listen to what the kid is saying. Go in and do something about it. And that will help build that trust between you and your child, that she was able to come to you and ask you that particular question, and you were receptive to it and you did something about it. So I think making changes is one of those critical, a very critical piece of what we do. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about, learn to trust yourself. We live in a day and age where we, again, sometimes we don't get acknowledged for the good things that we do. I mean, sadly, that's what it is. I mean, it's like we do things, we do consistent. This is one of the things that some of the frustration of the youth that I work with. They say, Abdullah, I'm working so hard and I do so many good things, but my parents will never acknowledge that. And then the minute I do one bad things, they're on my case. This is the reality of what we do. I just want to be very transparent. So learn to trust yourself. Trusting yourself is very necessary as far as your growth and your own, just embracing your identity and things like, because if you don't trust yourself, no one will, to be honest with you. Be okay with patting yourself on your own back. You do something great, pat yourself in the back. If you are into expressing yourself by writing it down. If you are about expressing yourself by, cherishing that and, and throwing a party, do that. I mean, the key to this whole thing is to celebrate as small successes. Because again, when we do something great and we celebrate, and then the next week we do something great, we celebrate. And do the third one, we do something great, we create that momentum. One of the things that I did growing up, I think since the age of 15, and it's all the way till now, to be honest with you. I think it stopped about a couple of years ago. My wife didn't like it too much, but I used to buy myself a tie every single Friday. Literally every single Friday, I will buy myself a tie. Why? That's my own me patting myself in the back and celebrating the great week that I did. So I'll go to school, I'll do my things, I get excited. I used to work at 15, so, like literally every Friday, I'll buy myself a new tie as a reward for myself. And that's me teaching myself that I am, I'm embracing myself and I'm trusting myself and I'm happy with the progress that I did. If I didn't reach my goals for the week and I didn't do what I needed to do for the week, guess what? I don't buy myself that tie. That's my own, like, I mean, if I do what I need to do, that's a reward. If I don't do what I need to do, that's my own punishment. So I start to learn not to seek that additional, like, constant. I mean, when I do something great, I mean, everybody's very excited about my family and things like that. But then the small things that I do that I wanted to embrace and I wanted to cherish and I wanted to celebrate and I wanted to give myself a pat in the back. So that's what it is. Create a habit every week. For example, if you're into stickers, for example, every week, if you do a great week, give yourself a sticker. If you have a job and every week you do something amazing, buy yourself a book. If you feel like every day, like day you do something awesome, take yourself on a walk. I mean, these are the things that once you start to discover who you truly are and trying to embrace who you truly are. Remember earlier we talked about this, is identifying the things that you're good at, the things that you want to do. If your goal is to buy a guitar, for example, and you work or you get an allowance, for example, and every week you do something amazing and you get that allowance, take that and buy the things that you want, right? So, if you're into gaming, buy yourself a video game. I'm not saying every week because it's like a lot of money, but I'm just saying, and it doesn't have to be brand new, like I said, and it doesn't have to be a thing. You can literally, write, be grateful and write something down on your book about how you had an amazing week and embrace that. So, and you continue to move forward with that. And then the last thing that I wanted just to talk about, sorry, I know from a time perspective, the last thing I wanted to talk about is actually two things. One is to forgive yourself. This is another interesting things that a lot of us we so hard about, we so hard on ourselves. And we don't tend to, we tend to find ourselves getting stuck in that mindset that we make mistakes and this is a major mistake and this is the end of the world. I cannot believe, I was supposed to get an A, but I got a C and I just wanted my family and things like that. Learning that, learning to hold, learning to forgive yourself is a definitely key component. Learning, by, and how do you do that? I mean, it's by literally practicing it, trusting whatever happened is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. But asking yourself, did you put enough efforts into what you're supposed to do? If you realize that you didn't, do enough efforts, forgive yourself, because guess what? You can't go back and change it. Accept responsibility, apologize for what you did wrong, and continue to move forward. Literally, I mean, like, let's say you have your phone, you drop your phone, you shatter the screen, you get upset about what you did, but you can't just beat yourself up for it for the next 10, 15 days that you can't believe you're a failure, you broke your phone and all these different, no. And parents, you cannot keep beating him up or her up for doing that. You take a step back. What went wrong? I did it. I dropped it. I wasn't careful enough. I shattered the screen. It's my fault. I accept responsibility for it. Perfect. What do I need to do now? Let's move forward. I need to take steps to either fix the screen or buy a new phone. Okay, how do I get that? If I'm working and I create some money, save some money for it. If I'm not working, I'm getting some allowance from home. This is something that I need to prove to my parents that I am worth it. I am, I'm putting enough efforts to earn that back, so I can go in and do that. But you must forgive yourself. You must learn to forgive yourself. And that all goes back into that self-love and embracing who you truly are. So that's number one. The last thing, it's to be grateful for everything we have. It's like for me, for example, I do have something called the gratitude journal. And my gratitude journal is every single day I will sit down and I'll write 5 to 10 different things that I'm grateful for. The reason why I say this, and not just an exercise about like the material thing that I have. I mean, I'm digging deeper into culture. I mean, I actually had a conversation yesterday with an amazing person. We are going to be featured in Africa Week. That's going to happen towards the end of the month, this month, and this is a platform where all African just come together to create this platform for 5 days, 24 hours, live shows, live entertainment, live coaching, live things for a whole 5 days. So I had an amazing conversation and we are going to be part of it. So that's one of those things that I wrote about, just being able to embrace and give back. I'm very grateful for the opportunity, right? So just sitting down and writing that down and talking about the impact and what we're able to do and what we're not able to do and all these different things. So having that gratitude journal, I think it will help you to start to overcome these negative things and negative thoughts. And we're going to push you to start to embrace your life for what it is. If you had dinner with your family, be grateful for that. If you woke up for Fajr, be grateful for that. If you woke up, like you start to give charity, be grateful for that. If you are, like, and you don't have to, like, when I say grateful, it doesn't have to be a comparison, like you saw to someone who's less fortunate or anything like that. It's literally, truly, taking a step and understanding what your life is all about, and the opportunities that you have. And if you start to pay attention, remember earlier we talked about asking yourself different questions to get different results. If you start to pay attention to the positive things that you have in your life, you're able to embrace your life for what that is, and that will help you to push forward and continue to do more and do more and do more, and that will help you, embrace your true identity as who you are. And with that will help in embracing our true identity as Sudanese Muslim Americans. And I'll definitely end with that. Any questions?
Yes, we have one question. Is there any disciplinary approaches or methods when dealing with kids?
Perfect. That's a very good question. So when you think about discipline, I think for me, I want to get back into the core of the actual problem. Like, right? Like, so what happened? Right? So like, what is the issue? What is the problem? And I want you to see, like, as parents, we want to see the problem from the youth's perspective, because everything we do in life is choices, right? So the kid had a choice, or youth had a choice to make, positive or negative, and they pick a choice that as parents, we feel like it's not appropriate or just not right, or whatever that is, that the choice that they made. So sitting down, I think, with your children and having the dialogue about, like, what that is. For me, for example, the way I do discipline with my children, I sit down with them and process what they did. Like, let's say someone, was supposed to do their homework and they didn't, or they were not supposed to leave the house and they did. So the question is, like, I'm trying to understand the why. Like, come back, we'll sit down, talk to me. What happened? What made you make that decision? Not in a confrontational way, not from anything. And then one of the things that I tend to ask, what do you think is the fair punishment that you should go through? Literally, that's the question that I ask. What do you think is a fair punishment? If you were in my space, what would you punish yourself by doing? If they're taking it serious and they value that relationship and they value the conversation, they will tell you exactly what that is, and you enforce that. If they said, lose my phone for a week, they lose their phone for the week. Another thing about, one thing that I want to just check parents on, like, when you start to punish kids, don't make the punishment for years. Like, don't make the punishment for months. Set a limit. Like, it just depends on the age. If a kid is 6, 7 years old, for example, they lost their, like, their TV privileges, or they lost their, their video game privileges, make it for a day or two. That's it. So once a day or two is over, go back, give it back to them, and then they start all over again. You give them that fresh chances, that new opportunity to prove themselves. But having the dialogue is key. Like, don't just punish for the sake of punishment. And don't just punish without talking. And a lot of times when we talk to our kids, we're talking about, like, just all the negative things that they did, but we don't actually allow our kids to give us that opportunity to explain to us why they did what they did, right? And when we have the dialogue, it doesn't have to be in a very confrontational way. So if you're angry, for example, don't lay punishment right away. If you discover something, take a step back, have that control of your own emotions, first of all, then have the dialogue with the kid. If they did something extremely major, punish as that, like I said, losing phones, losing things, losing discipline, ignore them for a few days, like not for a few days, for a few hours and things, and then having the dialogue, allowing the kids to go in there and process what they did wrong. And that's one of the key components, because a lot of times when kids consistently keep doing the thing over and over and over again, there's something wrong. They're hurting in a way, and that's the reason why they do what they do. So I think, having dialogue, but I think building that trust, taking a step forward, building that trust with your child. If you say to me, like, well, I am building that trust with them, and I do trust them and things like that. But if you do have that trust genuinely, what can you do as a parent to improve that relationship? One of the awesome things that I tell a lot of our parents, take your kids out on dates. Literally, take your kids out on dates. And when I say to you, like, improve your relationship with kids, I'm not saying improve your relationship with all of them at the same time. If you have 3 children, for example, one is a 7, one is a 13, and one is a 16, their needs and wants are completely different. So spending an hour, let's say every week or something like that, every other day with each one of them, to have the dialogue, to understand their needs and wants, understand where they're at in life and what they want to do, and how can you be supportive to help them. was one of those questions. I mean, and I want to be honest, a lot of our parents, and this is a conversation I have with a lot of our parents, that they have that issue just expressing, themselves about their needs and wants and what they want, and and the expectation for their children and things like that, and they find themselves getting disappointed. But if you didn't explain that, like, how are you expecting the child to do right? So sit down with them, explain the needs and wants, explain and understand from their perspective why they did what they did, and then from their perspective trying to challenge that in a way where she's not confrontational. It's not like yelling and screaming and things like that, but in a way where we're just trying to understand their mindset. And once you understand it and you get them to a level where they admit that they made the mistake, the question will be, what do you think the punishment should be? And then have them answer that question. And if you feel like it's fair, push it. If you feel like it's not fair what they're saying, add a little bit more to it, and they will accept it because they came up with that level. If they say to you, well, losing my phone for an hour, they're joking, but you say, you know what, I agree with you, losing your phone. What do you think losing your phone will do? Well, I'm not gonna have, find my, again, losing your phone and then still have access, for example, to your, to your computer, where you still, have access to your friends, you still have, to your video games, is not doing anything. If you lose in electronic, you lose in electronics, and you replace electronic with something else, right? So for example, like, and I don't want you to replace electronics with like them spending time with you, or they're spending time cooking, or spending time doing some things that you want them to do, because at some point they're going to start to associate that with the negative aspect of it. But you know what? We'll take away your electronics for a day. And then from there, I would like for you to go in there, and I want you to write about what you did wrong, and just stay in your room for a day. Or just, just hang out with us and just no electronics for a day, and just having different things. Let them get active with different things, introduce different things, not as punishment, but as alternatives. Because if you don't give alternatives, kids is gonna, like I said, it's gonna become like, I don't care, I'm gonna continue to do and define you and continue to push against what you want to do. Key to this, to discipline is building that relationship, that trust with your children. Number two, spending the time with the child. Number three, process with them their thought process as far as what they did right and wrong, and what made them make that specific issue or mistake. And then from there, adjust and make that discipline accordingly based on what they did wrong. Hopefully that answered it.
Thank you so much. We have another question.
Okay.
He's asking, do you have any suggestions for Islamic games, things to keep kids, especially boys, from getting addicted to regular video games and
Awesome.
spend most of their time on video games?
No, I love that. I think one of the biggest things that we do, for example, here in my house, and I encourage it to every parents and families from Islamic games. I mean, I think spending the time with the kids, that's the key. I mean, finding, like for us, for example, we read books together. We have some board game. Lido is one of that Sudanese awesome, known games ever. I mean, I know, Islamically, there is certain thought about the nerd and all these different things, but, it brings the family together and get them to sit there and embracing that. So for us, for example, we take walks as families constantly. If the kids into go play basketball and things like that. As far as the quarantine right now, video games is awesome. Writing is great. For me, I tell parents, lead by example. Literally, if you, for example, you want your kids to, get all together. I mean, one thing that we did here, we bought mandalas, the coloring books, and we will literally sit here in the table, all of us, my wife, my kids, and we all sit in the table with colors, and we just spend the time to color. And we did that, and now it became just a hobby. All of us, once, probably twice a day, we literally sit down on that table, and literally just sit there and draw things. Drawing is another one. That's the third one. Listen to podcasts, that's another cool thing. Taking things away from, reading. I think reading, one of the things that I was talking to one of the parents right now within one of the couple of youth that I'm working with, and they did something that's awesome this Ramadan. They picked Surah Yusuf as a surah, and every single day after Maghrib, they will all sit there together to just talk. I think read that one, that maybe not even have it 3 or 4 pages, talk about it, reflect on it. But the reason behind it is the story, the qisas bitata, and it's the parents telling the story, the kids are getting excited about it, they ask follow-up stories, and then the next day they'll go in there and it's every day they have one of the kids will actually read about a part of it and then come in and present on it. So they've been spending a lot of time together as a family. And one thing that I was just talking to the parent a couple of days ago, and she said like how just a small, simple exercise, like improve that relationship, that communication, that trust. Now it's like, they're comparing themselves. And the reason why they pick Surat Yusuf is because of the depth of the surah itself. I mean, there's that, the ups, the downs, the ups, the downs, the ups, the downs, and it's life. It talks about every aspect of it of life, relationship with siblings, relationship with parents, relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the patience, the whole accepting, the whole being, falsely accused, the whole, like, just like how to, get up, from a power perspective, how to lead a country, how to, do certain things, how to, as like, and if you take each and every participant in that story itself, it brings a lot of things. So it's a very deep, surah. So think about that from that sense. I mean, kids want to, one of the things that we also do here at the house is like we tell the prophet story on a daily basis, like before the kids go to sleep. We literally all sit down, we all talk about it and things like that. And it's a lot easier for younger kids, but for our older ones, I think having them and give them that responsibility to prepare, to get ready for them to, to get a story that you want to share with us and then come in and present it. You're not just teaching your kids to embrace their identity. You also help them become more confident. You help them with their, their presentation skills. You'll help them with that, like just public speaking skills. So you're doing 3 or 4 or 5 different things by just, giving each one of them a task. Let them pick a story. Let them pick something that they will come in as if, and you all sit as a family and let them present on it. You start to find, slowly that relationship will continue. But once the, inshallah, quarantine is over, like once this whole Corona situation is over, few things that, I mean, just following the Prophet's, sunnah, like, not Prophet, like, Umar Khattab, I think, علموا, أولادكم الرماية والفروسية والرماية وركوب الخيل, right? And السباحة. So, get him into swimming. I think class is a good thing. There's a bunch of lakes in this area that can just do that and embrace that. Horseback riding, there's a bunch actually also in our neighborhoods. If you live in Northern Virginia, there's a bunch you can actually come into that. From a Dimaya standpoint, I mean, I know it's a dangerous thing, but I think just get into that, from a concept like focus and finding things that they might be interested in away from the electronics and embrace that and push that a little bit. Hopefully that answered that question.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
We don't have any more questions. If you want to go over some things, or yeah, or pretty much we don't have any more questions coming in.
No problem at all. I mean, I think it's we have I think we're planning to do another one on self-love and staying positive in a couple weeks. But I think it's, if there is any questionnaire maybe about that topic, specific between now and then, maybe we can spend probably like 10 minutes before that, before the workshop in a couple weeks, and maybe answer any question that's specifically related to this. I mean, I'd love to help in any way I can. Not promoting anything or anything like that, but like if you guys need any help from any sense as far as just having a talk or having specific strategies or having a talk, we do offer like some free consultation. It's free, and you don't need to like provide anything with like now information, anything like that. Like I promise, it's not promoting anything, but just another help and support, that another resource that's available for our Sudanese community. I mean, and that's something that I can definitely, you guys can definitely take advantage of it, and love to help in any way I can.
Thank you so much, Coach AB. Okay. All right. So thank you so much for this amazing session. We appreciate you taking the time to join us today. You have pretty much covered all the topics, all the questions that parents and youth may have. Inshallah, next week we'll have another session with Coach AB, just like he mentioned, on staying positive. And inshallah, tomorrow we will have a session with Dr. Salha Mubarak or Fatma Sulaiman on the topic of healthy diet and practices during Ramadan. Thank you so much for your participation, and have a great day.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Coach AB.
You got it. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, AB. We'll see you hopefully next week. And if we have any person have a question, he can actually message us on our Facebook page or the phone numbers that are provided. Thank you, AB. Thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you so much. You got it. You guys have a good one.
You too.